Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Scott Ages, and I'm with the Jazz and Heritage Foundation, which, as I'm sure you all know, is the nonprofit organization that owns Jazz Fest and uses the proceeds from that amazing, amazing festival for year-round activities in the areas of education, economic development, and cultural programming. And this is a little bit of all of those. This is our second annual Sync Up Conference, and we are thrilled to be able to present this with support from Louisiana Economic Development and a number of other sponsors, and we are just grateful for everyone's support, but mostly we're grateful to you for all being here, and especially to our esteemed and distinguished panelists. So please, let's give them all a round of applause. Couple of quick announcements, housekeeping type things. As you probably know, there is another panel, a presentation actually, that's going to start at 10:30 that Ashley Keaton is going to do in the room next door on copyrights and trademark protection. So how many of you are artists, just out of curiosity? Fabulous. Well, for those of you who are interested in learning more about how to protect your copyrights at 10:30, so about 30 minutes from now, please feel free to make your way next door because Ashley has a really informational presentation for you. Meanwhile, we will continue on in here. The conference goes until about 12, at which point we will all adjourn, and most of us, I imagine, are going to head out to the fairgrounds for Jazz Fest. In case you're in need of transportation, there is the RTA bus, that route number 91 that leaves from the corner of Esplanade and Rampart. So that's a convenient way to get there. If you have parked in the parking lot here, you're welcome to leave your car. You also hopefully got the information that as our courtesy to you, we have a hospitality area at the festival, which is the Sync Up Hospitality Lounge. It's located on the 3rd floor of the grandstand building. So if you're out at the festival, please feel free to make use of that. It's for you, and it's a great opportunity to network amongst yourselves and with our guests. So please take advantage of that. By the way, it is only open to registrants of the conference. So your badge is good for one person. That would be you. So, let's see. Today's panel, what is today's panel on? Oh, right. Festivals. Let me introduce our panelists first. We have Edgar Bradesca, who is a Jazz Fest regular, comes up every year from Sao Paulo, Brazil, has a nightclub there and a festival, both called Bourbon Street. Welcome, Edgar.
Thank you.
Nicholas Gier with the Ascona New Orleans Jazz Festival in Ascona, Switzerland, which is in its, how many editions now?
25th.
Oh my Lord, 25 years. You don't show it. And so that is a New Orleans-themed music festival in Ascona, Switzerland. And every year, Nicholas comes over looking for talent for that event, for which we are very, very grateful and highly appreciative. Mike Kappas is the founder and owner of the Rosebud Agency, an extremely influential booking and management company based in San Francisco. How many years has it been that you've had this company?
33 years.
Wow, unbelievable. And you have a lot of New Orleans talent that you represent.
About 6, 7 artists from New Orleans at least.
Including Beausoleil, well, they're not New Orleans, but you also...
Dirty Dozen, Marshall Ball, who's also not New Orleans but associated. Alan Toussaint, Trombone Shorty. Good number.
Keeping our folks busy. It's great. Next to him is Danny Capillion, also a Jazz Fest regular and friend and fan of New Orleans, comes down as often as he can, based in New York City, where he is an event promoter and tour promoter, talent buyer extraordinaire. Lots of experience in this end of the business, and we're grateful to Danny for being here. Tell us about some of the other events and projects that you're working on.
Well, it's amazing. I've been doing business with Rosebud for I don't know how many years, and I've never met Mike before. It's nice.
You see, that's what Sync Up's all about, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. See,
we're about making connections.
I'm a poster child. There you go. Okay. Look at us, we're walking.
We hide, actually.
Exactly, right. Well, say hi to Tom. I'm in a few about 6 weeks presenting Alan T. Thanks to him. And I don't know, we do something with you every year. My two regular festivals in New York City are the annual Brooklyn Academy of Music Rhythm and Blues Festival, the only dedicated Rhythm and Blues festival east of New Orleans. And it's our 15th year, and the only time in 15 years it's 10 shows every summer, free outdoors in downtown Brooklyn near the East River waterfront for several thousand people at a time. And we have only repeated an artist once, and that was to, after 10 years, bring back Booker T and the MGs, with the second time Sharon Jones sitting in with them as guest vocalist to give it a little different twist from the first time. Other than that, we have never repeated an artist in 150 performances, all in the broadest definition of R&B. There's also the River to River Festival in Lower Manhattan, which has been going on many, many more years than the 8 years that I've been doing it, which is a broad, wide variety. This year we opened with Brian Stokes Mitchell, 5-time Tony Award winner. It's unbelievable how many people out of New York have no idea who he is, but he's the biggest star on Broadway in the last 20 years. And we go from there to Tift, Merritt, and Sarah Lee Guthrie, to Ian Hunter, to an event celebrating Poets House, joined by Impressions of Music by Meredith Monk, to be performed by Don Byron, Vijay Iyer, and Petra Hayden. And then last for this year, also, well, not last, but also producing a tour of Europe called Sing the Truth, celebrating the music of Nina Simone, which is going around Montreux, London, North Sea, all the major festivals, with Diane Reeves, Liz Wright, Angelique Kidjo, and Simone, Nina's daughter, all backed by the original Nina Simone band. Hope to bring that back to the States sometime.
Awesome.
I'm glad to be here.
And we're glad to have you. And finally, Peter Damon, who, like some of our other panelists, is making his repeat appearance at Sync Up, so we're grateful to have you. He's with the Waterfront Blues Festival in Portland, Oregon, which has been going on for how many years now?
22 years.
22 years, long-standing event. And you guys also have, like Jazz Fest, you have a strong nonprofit component, is that correct?
Yeah, we are very much an anomaly in this festival world. We are the largest blues festival in the West Coast, the largest, second largest music event in the Northwest. And we are run by a food bank. So that makes it very odd. We are a non-ticketed event. We ask for donations at the gate, and we raise about $500,000 every year for hunger relief in the Northwest. We have 4 stages, about 125 acts over 4 days. It's a major event.
And especially since Katrina, you all have had a very strong commitment to Louisiana music.
Yeah, actually it predates Katrina, but it got stronger after Katrina. I would say in the last 5 years we've probably had 60, 65 or so acts from Louisiana and New Orleans.
Great. Well, thank you all. As you've seen from the schedule, the ostensible topic for this panel is festivals, where the big gigs are. Because we here in New Orleans and in Louisiana have this notion, at least I do, that when an artist is looking for work, they can only make so much money playing at the local nightclubs. And even if they're touring, unless they're a really strong hard ticket act, when they're on the road playing nightclubs isn't always the most lucrative way to go. We have this notion that festivals are really where the lucrative gigs are. And what I'd like to do is ask Mike, from your perspective as a booking agent, can you talk a little bit, and I realize that you work with very well-established artists who are, in most cases, strong, hard-ticket acts. They're able to sell tickets under their own name wherever they go in the world. But still, I know that you work with emerging artists as well. Can you talk a little bit about, from the talent seller perspective, how do you view different types of gigs, especially when comparing club gigs versus festivals, and how do you try to approach them?
First of all, I should justify to the festival promoters that we're not trying to take advantage of you with high prices and everything, but you choose.
Oh, come on.
They choose a specific. They do pay higher prices a lot of the time because they are saying, we want you here on July 4th in the afternoon to play in Portland or Switzerland or wherever it is. So you have to work around that. They're dictating to you. Whereas a club, you can be coming through the area and say, I've got a Tuesday night open. Can you fill it? And they can fill it. Obviously, Tuesday night is not the best night of the week. Maybe you weren't top of their list, one of their top 10 artists for the year, which might be the choice at a festival, just choosing the top 10 artists of the year. So at any rate, there's more flexibility necessary in clubs. There's no flexibility in a festival. It happens on that date. You have to be in that place, and you have to plan that far in advance. So sometimes the festival, has to pay more to make that happen, to determine that we want you on this specific date. So on the other hand, then we've got a festival date that's we book further in advance for festivals frequently. So then we will build club dates around it or something. The festivals are really important, especially for an emerging act, because if that emerging act is playing on a Tuesday night in a club, who's going to come see them? Only the people that already know about them and that are already fans of theirs. But if they can really communicate to a large festival audience, they're winning all these new fans. Whoever they're on next to or just before or something too, they ideally capture that artist's audience as well. So they're really valuable to us. But at the same time, we can't just say, we'll play a festival for the same amount that we're going to play a club on Tuesday when we happen to be coming through the area. So they're really important to us in building an artist and maintaining an audience and reaching a larger audience. Any artist a club is maybe 200 to 1,000 capacity or something, but if we're playing in front of 5,000 or 10,000 people, that's of tremendous value to everybody. So.
Can you talk a little bit about, obviously there's a huge difference when you're working with a household name like Alan Toussaint or Beausoleil versus an emerging artist. I don't know whether you would consider Trombone Shorty to be an emerging artist. We all in New Orleans, we certainly know who he is, but he may not be yet quite as popular around the world. So when you're working with somebody that is still on their way up, what's the best way to approach, especially some of the larger festivals that are out there?
You have to point to whatever your strongest points are. And Trombone Shorty puts on an incredible show, especially for a festival. He's very high energy. I mean, there's artists that have tremendous audiences, but you have to be a fan of their music, or Sade or something like that. You have to be a fan of Sade, first of all. You're not going to be, she's not going to get everybody, this is an old name actually, but people are not going to be standing on their chairs and jumping up and down to that. But they do to Trombone Shorty. And you can point to videos, you can direct them to people that have experienced already. If you're not sure, check with so-and-so, check wherever they have been, and wherever he has been, it's always a knockout. So he's a great artist to book for festivals because he's so high energy. He can take any crowd, I think, and turn them on. And last night he played at the Gala here, which is a whole different animal. It's a sit-down, high-ticket event, and he adjusted his set accordingly to that audience. But when it's a festival audience, he'll knock them out, no doubt about it. So we just point to either videos of it, whatever strong points you have with any artist. And from one artist to another, there might be different strong points. So in going to a festival, you also want to make sure that the artist matches the festival. That's a very important thing. If you're researching and figuring out you want to go to this or that festival, you want to make sure that you're not knocking on the wrong door and putting a lot of energy into something where it's not really appropriate for you. So see the other artists on the bill. Are they compatible with what you're doing? And if they are, maybe you match up and you compare it to those artists that you're similar to. And maybe you've had experience with that artist. You're booking so-and-so, we played with them here, here, and here. Maybe we can play with them at your festival.
All right, one last question for you before I open it up to the other panelists. When determining how much to ask for an emerging artist, when you're approaching a festival versus approaching a club, do you automatically have in your mind a range or a bracket of how much money you think is appropriate for that gig? And when you're approaching a club, is that automatically going to be a lower amount of money than you would ask for from a festival, or are they comparable?
Well, with an emerging artist especially, there's not much that you can expect from a club where the artist isn't known yet. So you have to recognize. I started out actually promoting in 1970, but so I know that side, and I was talent buyer for clubs and everything. And you can't you have to understand the value of the artist in any given market. And we can have, I mean, it happens all the time. Your value can be tremendous in one market and smaller in another market for the same artist. And something that artists don't understand, and sometimes in the very beginning, is, well, we make $500 here, but we've got all these expenses to go there, so we should make $1,000. But you're only worth $250 in this place further from your home because nobody knows you. So you have to recognize not your cost, but your value also. But at the same time, unless a record company or somebody is supporting the artist, that money has to come from somewhere, or you can only go in the hole so long. So we do have a minimum that has to be met generally if the artist isn't being supported by somebody. So you have that in mind. For a festival, we've got an idea from our experience of what they might pay for somebody. But in some cases, an artist will sacrifice because they know the value of. They may even lose money playing a festival in some cases, an emerging artist, but know that it's going to open a door for them in that market. So.
And they might go back the next year and get a raise.
Yeah, we just adjusted the circumstances.
All right, great. Well, kind of on the other end of the spectrum, I'd like to ask Nico a couple of questions. Your event is a New Orleans-themed festival in Europe. So from our perspective here in New Orleans, you're kind of the poster child for the best type of gig that's out there, because it is a festival. It's in a beautiful seaside city in a beautiful part of Europe. It's about New Orleans music. So for artists who are here, the assumption is going to be, well, this is the type of event that I want to be at, because they're all about what we're about. It's not going to be a hard sell. And yet, the artists who are over here may not necessarily understand some of the pressures that you have to face on your side. So that's what I wanted you to try to explain a little bit about. The limitations in the types of artists that you're interested in. Because you're a New Orleans music event, but that doesn't mean you're going to want necessarily a heavy metal band from New Orleans.
No.
And it's a festival, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every band that you hire is going to get $50,000. Because we think festival, we think dollar signs, we think it's going to be huge. But you've got your own issues that you have to confront. So can you talk a little bit about how you choose who to invite and what mechanisms you have to go through? And move the mic a little bit closer.
Jazz Ascona is a festival 10 days in the summer. 200 concerts in 10 days. And it's mainly traditional jazz, going from New Orleans to swing, but we also propose R&B, gospel, blues, less funk, but why not? Why not? Last year we had 2 bands. Yeah. I fly over to Switzerland each year, about 60 musicians from town.
60.
60.
See, that's why we love you.
Well, thank you, but things can change. That means,
No, that's what I want you to talk about.
Do you fly them over? They don't.
No, I fly them over.
I love you.
Thank
Flying
you.
over, yeah.
Thank you. So,
Without sponsorship?
Well, we work on sponsorships, of course, and we attract 80,000 people in 10 days. We have 10 francs charge to get into the area, so into the concert area.
How much is a franc compared to a dollar?
It's about $8, 10 francs. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, $8 to get
$8, yeah.
$8.
$8.
So one franc?
No,
Eh,
10 equals 8.
Yeah.
If you go in and pay $8.
So my idea, the idea of the festival is to bring musicians over, not for only one concert, but we like to have them staying at least for 5 days, 5 concerts. And I normally book in advance, so I give the chance for musicians to get organized and do their tours. I don't organize them for the tours. They have to see if they want to go to Germany or Italy. Yes.
Are you a booking agent too?
No, I don't book those gigs. They have to see. But 1 year in
Well,
advance.
come on, you've got some extra time. Can't you book us a whole tour?
Well, I just started also a jazz club, so yeah.
Oh.
You're our new best friend.
Well,
He's not such a new best friend. He's been
No.
around here for a while. He used to live in New Orleans, by the way.
Yes.
For the jazz,
Yes.
I meant the new jazz club. He's our new
so
Well, let's talk about airfares for a minute, because that's a constant
exactly,
issue.
That's a constant issue, and that's the most problematic for New Orleans, because New Orleans is the most expensive airport, and we have a strong philosophy of our festival. We want to stick to New Orleans music, but let's be honest, a band out of New York costs half because of the tickets. So there is a problem. There is a problem, and that's why our festival, Jazz Ascona, wants to get closer to New Orleans, to the city also, and try to make them understand they should, be behind the music, musicians, help them to get out. In 25 years, I was never able to convince the city to help. Well, 1 year we did. 1 year we did, isn't it? But it was before Katrina, and after Katrina, this tie to the city went lost. So.
You didn't bribe the right guy.
Sorry.
You didn't bribe the right guy.
Well, probably. I don't know. I don't know.
So in other words, if the city could get the people to New York, then you could book them out of New York cheaper. Is that the
Well,
kind of thing you're talking about?
Or work on straight to Switzerland. That could be an idea. That could be an idea. Make it an international airport. That's what New Orleans really needs. That's a political step. But I'm not a politician. I don't want to get into it. I have my political troubles over in Switzerland.
He's a drummer.
So,
He's a drummer, not a politician.
Yeah. So yeah, we bring, as I said, so many musicians over. We have a lot of New Orleans bands from Europe coming to play. We mix musicians, New Orleans musicians with European musicians. We create new working chances. We are very strong festival in promotion. So we probably pay a little less than other festivals.
Can I ask you a question about your budget? When you're budgeting for an artist to come from New Orleans, can you talk about the proportion between the amount of money that you have to pay for their talent fee plus the cost, or and how does that, how does that compare to the amount of money that you're also looking at in terms of their travel costs, their lodging, and meals? Are they about the same, or are you paying so much more in travel costs than you are in artist fees, or the artist fees, do they outweigh what you're paying for travel and lodging?
It's different budgets.
Depends on the artist.
I keep the no, not really, because I know what I can pay, and that's it. Either you take it or not. And more and more I see New Orleans musicians that try to push up the prices. Also with the crisis now, it's
The economic crisis.
the economic crisis. I realize that musicians are trying still to push up with the. So at the end, I see on my program this year, instead of 60 people, I have only 40. That easy, and I hope I can bring it up again to 60 as soon as possible.
You gotta include rock bands, you know.
They don't like rock music
No,
in Switzerland.
No, it's
Just kidding.
It's not that I don't like rock, but there are so many festivals over in Switzerland at that time, and we are so strong with our philosophy of music we propose. We are known for that, and I don't want to start changing it. Although politically, as I said before, I'm always in fights to keep it the way it is, because there couldn't be nothing easier than bring rock bands to please another kind of crowd. And politics is asking me to do that, yes. But if you look at the scenario, festival scenario, we don't need it at the moment to go for other music.
Well, you have a very clearly defined identity.
Yeah.
And so the thing that really symbolizes your festival is the notion of a traditional New Orleans marching band walking down the street in the middle of this beautiful medieval village along the seashore, and your stage is right next to the lake, so it's a very beautiful setting. It's not in a big arena.
No.
It's not in an 80,000 seat venue. So you're not looking to have Bruce Springsteen or something like that.
No,
that's not the
definitely
character
not.
of your event.
Definitely not. The most we can have at the stage is about 1,000 people. So I'm not looking for the band that is going to attract or get the visibility of the festival and leaving out all the other bands I invited.
How many people do you constitute a band? I mean, if you're gonna fly somebody over, do you say you can only have 6 people in your band? Or
Oh yeah,
5
of course.
people? Do you have a limit? What is it?
Yeah, well, depends. For example, this year we have Don Vappy coming, or Solid Harmony, Topsy Chapman's Solid Harmony. Don Vappy is gonna come to do a tribute to Danny Barker, and of course to him I said 6 people. I can't afford more. And he will have a singer joining, Lillian Boutet, but she lives already over in Europe, so no travel expense.
So 6 is kind of your cap.
It depends. It depends on what I need, what I'm looking for.
Certainly
Yeah.
as a brass band, then
Of course.
more than 6, yeah.
Of course.
We can't get enough money from him though, so we can't book him.
Now,
If I ask-
does that ever happen where a band says to you, "Look, we're a 12-piece," and you say, "That's great, but I can only take 6"?
No, because normally I decide. I know what I want before, and I know the band.
Now, you're one of the unusual talent buyers in that you actually come to New Orleans on research visits, and months before your event, look for the artists that you want, and come to negotiate deals with them and actually sign contracts while you're here. Is that correct?
I don't do that anymore, to be honest, because it's not nice to be walking around and every musician sees you. Oh, you're doing contracts. No. It's very unpleasant. Okay.
Well,
No.
the reason that I brought it up was because I was curious. I always wanted to know, was the reason that you came to New Orleans to handle that kind of business, was that because that was the only way you could get it done? Or was it not realistic to expect people to handle the contracts and other arrangements long distance?
You know, it's a request I have to musicians. Work on your emails. Unfortunately, they don't do that very often.
So you need that personal contact,
I
because
need that
otherwise it's hard to get people to return your
I
emails.
have a musician here, very well-known musician. He has the contract. He has had it for 6 months. He never returned it, and probably tonight at the stage I will see him, and he will hand me out the signed contract. Final. I hope so. I hope he will have it. So, yeah.
So not that we're trying to
So-
impugn the work ethic of New Orleans musicians as a class, but
No. I didn't say that.
but that's okay. I did. But we are suggesting, and this is not unique to any particular place in the world. There are, and that is why people, if they can, have an agent, right, Mike, who can make sure that the business happens correctly.
Definitely.
But you have found that in dealing with a situation like New Orleans, where a lot of artists are independent, they don't have outside agents, they don't have management, they don't have lawyers or record labels or anything else, so you've got to deal with them directly, and you've found that sometimes it's difficult to get people to be responsive.
It is very difficult. But now I found a solution. I have somebody that, goes and knocks at the door of people that works for me from here.
So you have a local enforcer.
Yeah, kind of, and makes sure that everybody leaves with the passport and has their ticket and everything.
Well, that's great.
Needs to be done. Yeah.
Edgar, let's move over to you. Can you, first of all, tell us how the nightclub, which was dedicated to the ambiance of New Orleans, tell us how that came about, and tell us why you wanted to expand from having a nightclub, which operates all year long, to also having a festival, which is an annual event.
Okay, so everything is connected in a way. The club started up 15 years ago. Now, the name of the club is Bourbon Street Music Club, and the idea of the club came from my late partner and co-founder, Luis Fernando Mascaro. He came once to New Orleans, and he was a musician besides being a vet, and he wanted to bring music, the New Orleans music, to Brazil. And then start up with this dream. It was an idea, but was a dream. And well, we joined our efforts, and after 4 long years of building up a club, at the construction, because economic crisis in Brazil, we have this for a long time. It's something new here, but we faced many economic crises before. Nowadays it's okay, but at this occasion, all our money was frozen because of economic plan, so it took 4 years to finish the construction of the club. After this, we started the club, and B.B. King opened the club. Was a big grand opening, and since then on, many different acts, many from New Orleans and many international acts have come to the club. Ray Charles played there, Nina Simone played there, and Dr. John played there, and we have local artists, Brazilian artists also playing there. And there's a club that opens from Tuesday to Sunday. On Sunday, we have Latin music also, salsa, people play and dance. And we try to have all kinds of music under this umbrella of the black music, the black origin music, and everything comes from here. Blues, rhythm and blues, soul, funk, gospel, and the correspondent music in Brazil. We have in Brazil a wide range of rhythms that are connected with the American music. And the club now is 15 years, and going to the point of the festival, when we accomplished 10 years, in order to celebrate and this 10th anniversary, we had the idea. Herbert Lucas is there, is producer, director, artist, director, and chief producer of the festival and of the club. And we put together this festival. It was to happen just once, to celebrate our 10th anniversary. And
but you were so crazy you had to do it again.
Yes, everybody loved it, and we received more than 100 emails. Doesn't seem that 100 emails is a lot, but it was. We consider it as the top of an iceberg, because if somebody takes their time to write down and ask you to do it again, so we decided to continue and make it an annual event. And it was a big effort, because for the first year we got a sponsorship, and for the second was difficult. We didn't have all the money, but we did it, and we continued. And now we are going to the 7th edition, and since 2 years ago we extend the festival to Rio de Janeiro, and maybe this year we can go also to Bahia. People in Bahia, some co-producers want to do together with us in Bahia.
And they're all called the Bourbon Street Festival?
Yes.
All in all
Yeah.
the different cities that have
Yes,
the same name.
yes, yes.
And so, can you tell us about some of the talent that you have at these festivals? Are they local Brazilian talent? Are they international artists?
They are, what's all about the festival? It's a New Orleans festival.
See, that's why we love you.
we have, it's a showcase of all kinds of rhythms that, the main rhythms that we have here. So blues, rhythm and blues, traditional jazz, modern jazz, funk for sure, gospel.
Rock.
Rock not yet.
You won't have Bourbon Street, haven't you?
And of course we have marching bands, but we merge with some local acts also. We have good jazz musicians. We have very good musicians in Brazil, and besides we have traditional jazz and marching bands, and of course this is very New Orleans. So we have, as you have, a marching band going inside the audience every night. When we have in 6 different stages, because we open with an open air 3 concerts in a park for free. Then in São Paulo, then we move to Rio in another park and do the same. Then we do not a free concert, a smaller concert, open air, that we call Moonlight, and we got the moon last year. That was there. They delivered.
How much extra did you have to pay for that?
Yeah, we did an artwork too with the moon there. And after we decided that it was going to be called the Moonlight, but it will be a moon there. Let's check at the moon. Yeah, there was a full moon, and but not here, there. And,
Is that how you book your acts? You look at their horoscopes and see whether the stars are aligned and whether it's going to have good weather?
The stars are very important. But in fact, the weather is very important. We did our first festival close to our the date of our anniversary. That's December the 13th, and we did in November. This in Brazil, it's rain time, and we at the very last day of the festival, because we finished the festival in the street, the club street. We closed the street, and 25 to 30,000 people go there all over the day, because it's a 5-6 hour event, and the street only can hold let's say 10,000, but people come and go. So this is an estimate, 25 to maybe 30,000 people. And when we did this the first time, the street was crowded already, and the rain came and emptied the place.
We're
completely.
sympathetic to that down here.
Yeah, and nobody. And after a while, because it was a summer storm, we went to the stage to check it out if everything was okay. And we had the view, the beautiful view of people coming back, running to take their place because stopped the rain and crowd again. But we decided to change the date because you cannot gamble with the weather. So
We do all the time.
we moved from November to September, and was much better. But once again, we have a menace of the bad weather, and then we moved to August, and August is supposedly dry, so we can do open air most of the concerts, and that's it.
So do you bring a lot of acts from New Orleans? Talk a little bit more about how much activity you have in terms of hiring New Orleans artists.
Yes, besides the festival that is New Orleans is all about New Orleans. We hire regularly New Orleans actors for seasons of 1 week or sometimes 2 weeks, and are not they are we build up their careers down there, and we look mainly for R&B because to make this atmosphere like New Orleans, the kind of atmosphere we look for. People dance. This doesn't mean that we don't bring jazz acts, but when they come are for particular 1-2 nights, and we tour them all over from São Paulo, Rio, and sometimes other cities. We have good connections with Argentina and Chile, and when we have a big act, we have to share costs because there are no audience for a week in São Paulo, so we have to have São Paulo, Rio, Buenos Aires, and so on.
And you're arranging all of that, and you're covering all the transportation and all the lodging and all the expenses?
Yes, we do this. Sometimes it's difficult, as he's saying, because you don't have direct flights from here, and if you don't have to Switzerland, imagine to Brazil, it's more difficult. And of course, this is expensive. This is one main issue of the budget. But we have less artists than him. Let's say 35, more or less, maybe 40, depending on the size of the band. The 40 is a limit nowadays of artists.
Now, do you have any of the same difficulty that Nico was talking about in terms of getting New Orleans artists to be responsive to you, to make sure that the contracts get signed and to make sure that everything is taken care of appropriately?
A little bit. We have some help, and we come here. We try to come here before. We've been here 3-4 weeks ago in order to set up things. Is in August, so we are almost finished with our lineup. So things that didn't went through by email or phone, we come here personally, and also we do have local help or somebody in the States that can continue to follow.
But that's a big commitment on your part to come here to take care of the business. I mean, that's a lot of time, money,
Yes.
effort in order to do that. Why do you take on so much responsibility?
Well, it's a pleasure to do this.
All right, fantastic.
Besides, we have fun. Besides, it's just an
You like to
experience.
see the actor in person.
Most of the acts we take to Brazil, we see them.
Yes, most.
Sometimes records are a little fake.
So sometimes it's an artist that you're not familiar with. So you're looking for new talent that you want to see personally before you book.
Of course, always.
So you're not
Because-
interested in just the big names that people know about.
You gotta be a good entertainer more than a good record.
Well, we understand like this. You have quality, and you have entertainment,
We always hear
and you have the press. So this intersection, is what we look for. And of course, you can have high quality with entertainment, and also with other people reading that they are okay, they are good and come. So this is important because also the press is very important.
Peter, let's talk about your event a little bit. You're a free festival? Or you ask for donations?
We ask for donations.
So,
Yeah. How are we funded?
well,
How does it work?
I mean, do you have sponsorships as well?
We are sponsor driven, really. Our main sponsors, well, our sponsorships basically underwrite all the talent and production costs of our event, so that somebody walking through the gate who donates $10 knows that $10 is going for hunger relief rather than the infrastructure of the festival.
So, well, okay, well, you kind of answered my question a little bit. So I'm looking at your website here, and we can see who some of your sponsors are. So the fact that it is an almost free festival, people can basically pay what they want. Do you
Right.
also take donations of canned goods and that type
Oh
of
yeah,
thing?
yeah. The suggested
in lieu
donation.
of money, I mean? Can somebody come up with a can of baked beans rather than
Right.
$10?
Well, we ask for $10 and 2 cans of food per day. It's a great deal. It's 4
So-
stages of music all day long.
So what I'm asking is, now you've got, still pretty high-level talent. I see Johnny Winter here, and
Right.
you're doing high-level talent. So the fact that it is a festival that supports a food bank, and that it is a very low-cost entry, doesn't necessarily mean that you have a low-rent talent budget. You're still able to hire high-level artists.
No,
correct?
that's right. It's a very successful event, so that there are a lot of sponsors in the Portland area that are excited to be part of it. We get 25,000 people a day. It's the major event in Portland and in Oregon all summer, really. So it's something that sponsors are thrilled to be part of. It doesn't mean that it's not really hard right now, particularly getting those sponsors lined up. It's been a difficult year for us. It's not been a catastrophic year, but it's definitely been a year of belt tightening a little bit. So I'm dealing with that pressure of a somewhat diminished budget on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm working for an agency that's telling me that they've never seen such a crisis of need in our state. Oregon has seen its unemployment rate jump from 8 to about 12.5% in 4 months. And there are people showing up at food banks that have never gone to a food bank before. They're, white-collar, high-tech people from Intel, just all kinds of odd people that are showing up at food banks. So I am faced with the task of putting together a dynamic festival that'll draw lots of people down to this park and who will donate lots of money to the food bank.
We are here.
Where was I going with that thought? I just lost my
Well,
train of thought.
so what kind of criteria are you using when you're looking for talent
When I'm
selection?
looking for talent. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm looking for a handful of headliners with proven track record in our market that can draw the big crowds. I mean, pulling 25,000 people to the waterfront, even when it's a $10 admission. I mean, for 3,000 to 5,000 of those people, they will think that's the most amazing music deal they have ever had, or certainly will get all summer. For the rest of the 20,000 people, you have to really stimulate them to come down. So I'm looking for a handful of acts, a handful of headliners that can pull those crowds.
Now, it's a blues festival, so it's all
It's a
going to be
blues
within
festival,
a
but
prescribed
we push the envelope as far as,
Rock bands.
well, yeah, sometimes, sort of. But yeah, we push it into Zydeco and brass bands and R&B and funk and gospel.
So, so you're looking for a certain
So,
number, you
okay.
said, of strong headliners,
Now,
the
there's-
major names.
As far as like New Orleans acts, well, any act really, other than the headliners. I mean, the first thing I'm thinking when I'm looking at sort of a mid-level touring act or a totally unknown act is, okay, how many tickets can these guys sell at $10 a head in a club? And
In a strange city,
in a strange city.
or not their
Yeah.
home city, I should say.
Right.
This is a strange
I
city.
mean, that's where I sort of start anyway. What's that number? Well, it varies on the act.
500, 200.
Well, here's a good example. I mean, 10 years ago, I brought Eddie Bow up. Eddie Bow was a national treasure, and he was a huge influence on everything that happened down here. But in Portland, besides me and some radio DJs and a couple of musicologists, nobody really knew who he was. So, okay, how much can I afford to pay somebody like that? It's going to cost, to bring him and a couple of his accompanists up with him, it's going to cost $1,000 or $1,500 just in airfare. So how much can I afford to spend on him? Or is he so important to our lineup in a musical and a historical sense that I should just bite the bullet and bring him? And that's kind of what I did. On the other hand, I tried for years to get Snooks Eaglin up. I mean, I wanted so much to get Snooks. And first of all, I could never track him. I could never find him. I finally called the guy at Rock and Bowl, and the guy at Rock and Bowl said, okay, here's his home phone number. Call him at 5 o'clock. So I called him up, and I'd always heard Eddie just does not, I mean, Snooks just does not want to leave town. So I got him on the phone. He said, yeah, I'll come up. Sure, I'd love to. And I went, oh my God, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But the problem was he wanted basically John Hyatt money or Buddy Guy money. And I'm thinking again, you know, there's 75 people in Portland who know who this guy is. So I had to pass. I just couldn't do it. So anyway.
So, all right. Well, that is very instructive. So you've got especially when you're dealing with relatively unknown artists, or at least artists who are not known in your market.
Right.
You're dealing with a limited budget, and this is true for everybody. So let's open it up to the whole panel. Can you each talk a little bit? Well, Danny, I'm going to ask you something more specific in a second. But in the meantime, can everybody just comment a little bit about what it takes to get your attention, and how to break through the clutter, and how to convince you that I'm worth taking a chance on if you don't know who I am. And Peter, why don't we start with you?
I'm really, it's not promo packs. Don't send me more promo packs, because the promo packs, I mean, I filed them, I keep them on file in case that name rises above the fray, and I go, okay, I've got that guy on file, I'm going to study this at this point. What I'm looking for is word of mouth from people I know down here. You know, I have friends down here, I have a family down here. They call me up and say, hey, these guys are really hot, you've got to check these guys out.
Okay, so our best bet is to search your last name in the white pages down here, find your relatives, bring them over a casserole.
Yeah.
Nicholas, how does somebody, I mean, you know what you're looking for. Is there something that I could do as an artist to get your attention?
Invite me for dinner.
Okay.
No.
Red wine or white?
Both. No. It depends. Like Fisto Sisters, for example. They came last year to Ascona. I didn't have to discover them because they were always around, and I just saw them at the Spotted Cat a few times after Katrina, and you know, the good vibe they bring and the great music convinced me to do it.
Your goal is traditional New Orleans music, right?
Mainly.
Do you also book acts from Europe that do the same kind of music?
Sure.
The question is, does he also book European artists who play traditional New Orleans music?
Yeah. And I also book bands from New York also. For example, next year we will have Kevin Mahogany coming. He's not New Orleans.
He's from
And Edgar, what could I do if I was a New Orleans artist and I wanted to get your attention? I wanted you to hire me. What would be the best way to?
Well, the criteria is like I said before, but we come here and we try to follow up most of the artists personally. We go to Jazz Fest, we go to the clubs, and we follow up. We have to bring these kinds of artists that bring attention, high energy, communication. Is not a CD doesn't work. We do prefer, let's say, a video, a bad video that you can, if we don't know exactly the artist, but nothing substitutes the seeing and and feeling. how
So
they
you're
are.
really looking to explore, find something new on your own, and find something that you can believe in.
Yes, and follow up. When we are here, we are thinking about next year and the other year. So we always have, let's say, a roster, our roster as artists that we are interested in. For instance, we would like to have martial ball last year. We will have martial ball this year because
We're your customers, Mike,
the-
by the way.
we are, because
Many years.
We appreciate it.
we didn't have the exact date for last year, so we planned in advance, but we want Marsha. Marsha here is a big name, there is not, okay? But we believe that when she comes, the audience will love. In fact, there, people trust on us that we are going to bring good acts. They don't know the names. They don't know, but they know what's all about our festival. So then they have the first impressions of these artists, and then they can come over and over again. Okay, for our audience, the festival is also a demonstration, a showcase of the artists themselves.
Right.
So, but our criteria is always the same. We have to have quality and energy and communication with the audience. That's it. And we have these different slots: one traditional jazz, one modern jazz, one funk, and so on. Zydeco for sure. Zydeco.
All right, let's ask Danny Capillion a couple of questions since he's been sitting so patiently, bursting at the seams, waiting to chime in.
I never have anything to add on.
Yes, I know you that well. All right, why don't you just give us 10 minutes of your best stand-up?
With or without my shoes on.
So you hear the direction where we're going. Now, you're in a bit of a unique situation because you are both a talent buyer and also, correct me if I'm wrong here, a talent seller. Because
That's correct. I'm buying and selling. And what I sell are things of my own creation.
So talk to us a little bit about that, how you create things and how you go about selling them. You're dealing with very high-level tours with major international artists working at all the biggest festivals in the world. And what I would also like you to address is, remembering who our audience is, one of the things that we often realize is we all say, oh man, you know, these huge festivals, Roskilde, or you know, Montreux, or North Sea, or any of these massive events. And, well, outside of what we have locally. You know, a lot of the times, I mean, we all know who the top tier artists are. And we have a pretty good idea of who the second tier artists are. And then there's the third tier and the fourth tier.
Well, but that speaks to what the ostensible subject of this panel is supposed to be. You say, we know who the top tier artists are, we know who the middle tier artists are. I disagree with that. We don't necessarily know who they are because the whole point is sometimes somebody's going to come along who's going to knock your fucking socks off, who is a genuine middle or upper tier artist, and their audience is out there, but none of us up here have realized that. And I'll give you my last example. It comes from a year and a half ago. And let me preface just to say, what I do is way too complicated and reaching out in too many directions. But to stay to the topic at hand, I try to live by the wow factor. Either I'm wowed or I'm not. In my gut, I mean, let's be honest. It's easy to be entertained, folks. You know, what does popularity mean? You know, but beyond being entertained, anybody in any discipline that's going to make you sit up and go, "Holy shit!" That's, you know what I strive for and what I present, and if I succeed 1 in 100 times, I'm thrilled. 1 in 1,000 times. I want little hairs standing up on the back of the necks of my audience, and I want them walking out at the end of that show and grabbing their cell phones with tears running down their face, calling their significant others going, "I can't believe you weren't here with me. You have no idea what you missed, and I had no idea this was going to happen." That happened to me I'm thrilled to say last year when I presented the Avett Brothers, the only time last year that happened to me, and I don't even remember who sent me their album, Emotionalism. I don't know if you know them. They're a band out of Asheville and Concord, North Carolina. Two brothers and two best friends who were, I like to describe them as Bluegrass Everly Brothers with the energy of the Clash. And that is quite accurate. And you have to see their live thing to believe it. They're playing this weekend. I can't recommend them highly enough. They should be #1 priority for everybody. It's one of the most thrilling things I've seen in a long time. And when I say the energy of the Clash, I mean, I presented them for River to River Festival. I had 3,000 people show up when I expected 500, and everybody stood from the first song to the last and knew every fucking word. And I'm looking at the crowd going, where did these people come from? But you know something? I live for that, and that's what I want to see. And of course, again, it's not just popularity. They have it. It in quotes. And you know what it is or you don't. Here's another thing too. If you don't know what it is, you shouldn't be doing what we do for a living, okay? Because it's that thing that you can't define. You feel it or you fucking don't, okay? And it's about, you know, you keep going back to, where's the rock and roll bands? Where's the rock and roll bands? Where's the rock and roll? Oh, okay, well, let's say a quick thing about the rock and roll, okay? I am the biggest rock and roll fan in the world. But let me say something about rock as a genre as compared to, and you know, in the broadest sense as compared, for example, to jazz in a broad sense. One has a lot to do with discipline as a player. The other really kind of doesn't. Rock is about feel. Either you, because, I mean, would anybody call the Ramones a disciplined band, a band rooted in disciplined playing? It's all about feel. It's all about putting across, I mean, Iggy Pop, how can you not love what these guys do? Think about what they make you feel, and of course that's what so many of the great New Orleans artists are all about. What New Orleans jazz artists do, of course, is bring together that extraordinary discipline of jazz along with that rootless feel that makes your feet move as well and, you know, touches parts of you that have nothing to do with how to read or write or arrange or compose or, you know. And that's all real. I mean, George Harrison, Paul McCartney never learned to read or write a note of music. So anyway, to get back, I look for the wow thing. And in terms of younger artists, or it doesn't even have to be younger artists, any artist who, and when I say artist, I'm talking about a band or an individual, whoever, who is looking for an opportunity or hoping for an opportunity. Guess what? The only thing that matters to me is my audience. In anything, whether it's a production that I've created and I'm sending out there to a major festival, or or a festival in New York or somewhere else that I'm booking, and I want my audience at some point to say, how did he know about them? Who are they? Wow, how come I didn't? Wow, he's paying attention. So I'm always making sure that somehow it's not just about making sure, and of course, and these folks are doing very important and great and smart things, having somebody on the ground here in New Orleans to be their boots on the ground, scout for them, help negotiate, get the logistics done here when he can't be here, he's not even in the country. And Scott, how great to have some international representatives on this panel too.
Isn't it great?
It's really important.
Can we just have a hand for our panel real quick? Amen.
But also to keep in mind too that for, you know, what every one of us here do, we're thinking about our audience. We need the audience more than anything. The audience is our life.
The next gig.
The audience is everything. And you don't simply want to entertain your audience. We're also thinking about what our competitors are doing, our colleagues are doing. And we all, and I'll tell you this, me especially, I'm in New York City. There's so much shit happening every day. And 9/11, our Katrina, did the opposite of hurt us. It's made things crazier and more. There are more things happening every day in New York than you could possibly imagine. I have to work extra hard to make sure that I stand apart from what anybody else is doing and from my previous seasons. So I have to make sure that there's somebody either young or new or, you know, and again, you don't have to be doing something original, but you better be great at it. You know? I've made the case that, you know, why is Bruce Springsteen? Has he done something that's truly original? Truly? No, but he's the best. And if you're not going to be a real original, then you better be the best. And there is a lot to be said for that. And it shows on stage, and audiences react. This man is doing remarkable things, and obviously he's got similar creative struggles, I'm sure, all the time. How are you? He says, 20% of my audience know what I'm hip to. The other 80% of my audience, what am I doing to ensure that they're going to contribute their $10? And so we're all thinking about these festivals we create. We're telling a story. There's a beginning and a middle and an end. There's always a narrative. And we dance. We look at who, start with a wish list, and then we get to the realities. Budget is number one. Availabilities. How many times do we all hear people from the audience constantly come up to us, how come you didn't get so-and-so? We hear that every day, all the time, you know? But nobody knows about simple issues such as, well, they're not available. They're just not available. Or, in the case of Snooks Eaglin, I'd love to do it. Can you pay me $75,000? Sorry, I'm not coming if you can't. Audience members don't think of those things. Weather for outdoor events. You know, we can get around a light drizzle, maybe even a little more than a light drizzle. But you know how many times the audience doesn't know? It's not about the wet. It's about the electricity. And they say, how come you couldn't keep going? It wasn't even raining. And I go, yeah, but there's lightning in the distance. You want to touch that microphone while you're holding your electric guitar? People don't think about these things. We have to think about these things. And there are so many numerous issues, and there's more creativity that goes into, I mean, let me tell you this. I've come to Jazz Fest. This is my 20th out of the last 21 years. Last year was the first and only time that I actually worked, hired by the festival. They were shorthands running backstage at the Jazz Tent. And me and a colleague from New York split. I did one weekend, he did the other. And even though I knew everybody from the festival, they're colleagues, because I worked with the parent company from New York for years. But it was a thrill, an unbelievable, humble thrill to help run backstage at the Jazz Tent last year and to see from the inside what this mammoth organization does. The level of detail and intercommunication and creativity, if you don't think there's endless creativity going on and making sure that all these logistics and everything, it's like a business problem. You've got to believe that the good people in business, and here we're talking about the business of music, when problems arise, if you're not seeing a problem as an opportunity for a creative solution, right? Okay, and that goes for anything. But we have to think more like that in music because we're dealing with creative artists who don't necessarily live linear lives.
Well, let me get back to a question that I was trying to figure out how to ask earlier, and this is equally, it applies to Danny as well as to Mike and to Peter. So when you are, or like I was saying, with regard to first top-tier artists, you know, we all think of the Wynton Marsalis, the Terence Blanchard, the Dr. John, the Beausoleil.
Right.
I would include them in that category. You know, all of the big festivals, we all know going in that if you're talking about North Sea, Montreux, or the big events, those are the ones that are easily going to get the gig because they're at the top of the game. But if you're second, third, fourth, fifth tier band from down in this neck of the woods, Lafayette, New Orleans, Shreveport, whatever, how does one get the attention, if you can even answer that, of the talent buyers at the major festivals and hope to break through those ranks? Because we all hear about the same scenarios that they're facing. Sponsorships are down, ticket sales are down, airfares are expensive. Their biggest concern is satisfying their sponsors, making sure they have enough butts in seats to justify the huge budgets that they're asking for. So how does an artist at our level, so to speak, manage to break through? I mean, Mike, you've experienced this. You know, Peter, our people are knocking on your door trying to figure out how to get in over there. I'm sure you guys deal with this to a certain extent as well. But Danny, you know, you're taking big name acts out on the road and booking them at North Sea.
I take lesser known acts out and present them in packages or in major festivals also. And that's where our job comes in too, to say, look, you've knocked me out. I think you're great, but nobody in my town knows you. You got to be direct with people. You can't beat around the bush. You're not being a professional if you dance around. You have to say, I think you're great. I can create an opportunity for you. You're not going to get.
Nobody knows you.
But not enough people in my town know you. And they go, but I'm a big star in my town. Well, you know, everybody's a big man on their own campus. But if you please believe me that I'm speaking to you from a base of knowledge and genuine passion, and your talent is, you know, has genuinely knocked me out. You're not going to make what you want, but I'm going to get you in front of an audience that's going to help your career. I'm going to put you in a context that's going to raise your profile.
So do you bump up against
some artists say
inflated expectations a lot on the part of artists?
All the time. But some also say, you know, I'll do it. I know I'm not going to make anything. I might even lose a little bit, but this sounds like a great opportunity. So we have to sell. We have to sell the opportunity. And guess what? Some of these, you know, you keep going back to I'm working with big names and big festivals, but I frequently have to turn to major artists and say, I'm creating a context that's different from what you usually do, asking you to play music different from what you usually do, with different musicians who you've worked with, but I know it's something that tugs at your heartstrings. Can you do this for a lot less than you usually do? You can go back to doing all the other things you do afterwards, but believe me when I tell you, you'll remember this in all the great ways. So we have to be great salespeople to artists who are looking for a good new opportunity, or established artists who are trying to pull out to do something that we believe is special. We're always selling.
All right, let me ask one more question, then I'm going to open it up to the audience for questions. So, from either the buyer's perspectives or the seller's perspectives, tell us nowadays, because I used to manage and book bands, and that was in the days really before the internet or before everybody had email. And I spent a lot of time putting press kits together with nice cover packages and CDs, and spent a lot of money at the post office, and spent a lot of money on fax machine bills and all of those kinds of things. And I'm wondering, what is the mechanism that one uses nowadays? Do you just shoot somebody a quick email with a link to their website, or or is it not even about that? It's only you're coming here. If I don't happen to see you and fall in love with you, then it's hopeless. What is the way that we get people's attention?
Well, I just want to say also, of course, I'm not making hard and fast rules. I always hope for the wow factor, but that's not the case all the time, or even often enough, and I still have dates I have to fill and shows I have to put together. So it's not that I'm lowering my standards in any way. You hope that I'm going to be wowed, but and again, if I'm not wowed, that doesn't mean my audience isn't going to be wowed. So I'm still looking to put together the best thing. Promo packs that come in the mail, they go right in the trash for me, because you can find in 99% of the cases, it has nothing to do with killing trees and all that. You can find just about anything online. And if you're quick and diligent enough, you can just go bing, 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 and connect the dots, link, if you know what kind of sites, and a network of knowledgeable experienced people who you can pick up. That's another thing that I live for too. I'm calling my somebody or another in my network of experienced folks, might be Mike or whoever, and go, do you know these guys? What do you think? What are they worth in your, are they going to mean anything in Switzerland like they will in Brooklyn? Or what am I up against here? Or how do you think they're going to interpret this? How are they going to get along with this person? Is their wife or their boyfriend their manager? And what's the dynamic we have to deal with there? And don't think that, I know that's you laugh at that, but that is a major issue. That is, through the history of music, that is a major
Why did you pick
issue.
that topic to lean into the mic?
Because it just occurred to me that is a major issue that we forget to raise, you know? Because sometimes there isn't an agent. Sometimes you're talking about, you know, there's an artist we want to present who doesn't have an audience in our town yet, you know? And we're not dealing with a representative of that artist who is particularly communicative or reliable or sane. I'm serious. And so we have to read between the lines and the conversations, and we have to watch what we don't say more than what we say. All these things.
Now, but a phone call coming from somebody like Mike, who has a reputation, who is working with a very high-level agency, people trust they trust you because they know you by reputation. They know the quality of the artists that you get involved in, even if they're not well known. Is that correct? Certainly hope so. Okay, so in 30 seconds or less, I want to hear from everybody on the panel. Denny, you've already addressed it, but from Peter on down, 30 seconds or less, how do I break through? How do I get your attention? How do I get you to think about me?
But buzz, like I said, is a lot of it. And if I hear about you from somebody I trust, I'll start doing research. And next time I'm down here, I will go out of my way to find you and just check it out. The other thing, I talk to a lot of festivals in the upper west part of the country that happen around my event, and we kind of brainstorm and compare notes and see who we can sort of put together routing for. So, you know, one year, the guy who books High Sierra Festival said, hey, we're bringing the Hot 8 brass band up. And I had seen Hot 8 at Jazz Fest, but I don't think they'd ever been to Portland. And, you know, the routing worked out. They were affordable because they were on the ground driving. We didn't have to fly the 8 guys up from New Orleans. It was affordable for us. It got them in front of the biggest audience they're ever going to play for in the Northwest. So it was a win-win. So that was a no-brainer. That was an easy call.
So for the most part, it's personal connections and buzz that you pick up from reliable sources. Mike, we already addressed the fact that you're already an established person who deals with known quantities. So when you call somebody and say, look, I got somebody, I know you never heard of them, but trust me on this one. Is that how you break through with unknown acts?
It helps, but you know, if we could just call people up and they trust us, we'd be doing a lot more business, probably.
So
I mean,
so then
we have to sell
through?
very hard too. I'm wearing a Bill Frisell T-shirt. I've been trying to get him into the Jazz Fest here forever.
That'll do it.
And I can't. I figured, you know, this is televised. Okay, so I give him some exposure if he can't play the fest. But no, we can't get everything we want either. We point to whatever tools we have available. In some cases, people have amazing press. Sometimes it's a new record that's getting tremendous reviews. Sometimes it's Trombone Shorty. For the time we've worked with him the last few years, there's been no new record. So we've been, you know, live performance is the key for him, and sending people to either video of the live performance or recommendations from other people who've presented him, because he's a killer live performer. We'll have a record out this year, but in the meantime, you just point to whichever tools you have that might connect with that buyer. And again, like I said before, you go to a festival, you don't take your artist and shoot for a festival that doesn't make sense for that act.
But I got to believe that you're a person that has an easier time getting your phone call returned than, you know, just
one benefit of doing it for several decades, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's a nice benefit.
And for those people who aren't as experienced as you and aren't as well known in the industry and may not be recognizable when somebody sees their name on a phone message, how is there a trick that you can think of that helps people stand out from the crowd?
again, you go back to whatever tool you might have, pointing to the name of the artist, if the artist's name is going to click, or anything that might get them to return the phone call.
This is Wood saying, "Hey, I'm from Louisiana. I'm from New Orleans." Is that a hook that sometimes responds to people?
And you're a New Orleans-based artist, then if he hasn't heard the name, hopefully he'll pick it up because he's got a particular interest. Both these guys have a particular focus on New Orleans and might pick it up. And we have a number of New Orleans identified or New Orleans-based artists, and it helps because there's an affinity for New Orleans music. Even if it's not such a specialized festival. But whatever, you think of what is the best thing you've got going for you and put your best foot forward.
Nico, Edgar, you guys are in a similar situation in that you both have New Orleans identified events that are happening in other countries. You come here to do your research, or have over the years. You more or less know what you want. Are you still looking for new things, or do you already have an idea of what you want?
Normally, I have an idea. I've been coming so much here to New Orleans over the years. It's rare that I find something really new that I didn't know before. But I could say what I look for normally is good performers, of course, good on stage, but also good people, yeah, that I can trust.
So the best way to get your attention is to invite you over for dinner.
Yeah.
Don't forget
Edgar,
a yes has to be a yes.
I mean, how do I get your attention? Do I just say I'm from New Orleans? Is that going to be enough? Or is there something more?
No, it should be something more. In fact, an artist only invited us once for dinner. That was just a single occasion.
Did that work?
No.
Did that work? Did they get the gig?
Yes. But we intended before, so. But the buzz is important. The press is important, and here in New Orleans, the festival is always presenting or bringing somebody to the stage. The first 11, 12, the people is growing along
so those are the ones
schedule.
you're looking for, the ones who may be showcasing at an event like Jazz Fest but aren't yet well known. So they're the early acts.
And the clubs and friends that we made here. Look at this guy. He's good. He's growing. This kind of buzz. So we pay attention and we check it out. That's it. And how to catch our attention. Of course, you can send something to us. There is YouTube. There is nowadays you can check in minutes. You don't have to wait for a promo pack. But we pay attention to new acts, of course.
Well, I'll just say that, I often book local acts for festivals that we as the foundation put on throughout the year. Some of them are very clearly defined. They're Cajun and Zydeco. So don't send me a rock band for a Cajun Zydeco festival, for example, or we do a blues festival or a Latin festival or whatever. But a lot of the times, a local artist will call me on the phone and say, "What do you think? How about it?" Well, I'm right here in town. I could walk down the street and go shake their hand, but I'm at my desk, busy person. I go to the computer, which is where I spend my entire day, is in front of the computer. I Google them. That is the very first thing that I do. And I see what comes up on Google. And if they don't have a web page of any kind, MySpace, whatever, and if I can't immediately see a picture, see a video, hear some music, and know who they are, then chances are I'm not going to carry the conversation on too much further. But I have had the experience where I've had artists drop out at the very last minute, and I need to substitute something for them, and I'll call for a recommendation. I've had this. I need something in that vein for about the same price. You got anything for me? And they'll say, "Well, yeah. What about this guy?" I was like, "I've never heard of that person." Bing, bing, bing. Google. Hey, website. Pictures.
I just want to add one thing, because
go
I've run into this a couple of times very recently where somebody's name came up, an artist's name, and I couldn't find Dick on the internet. I couldn't find anything about them, but I couldn't walk away from this particular artist because they were filling a slot that I needed filled, and there was a particular reason, and so it came back to a personal reference, and that tipped the scale in my decision. because the personal reference was from somebody who I was in a position to not only trust, but I had to trust also.
Interesting.
It was a given situation.
Right. You were under pressure. You had to make.
Well, it was somebody who said, I know this person. They're not known out there. They don't really have a career, but they're somebody who I've worked with, and they'll be fine within this context. Trust me, it'll work.
Trust me. And you trust them, and it worked out.
Not yet.
But what I was going to say is that in my experience,
See my smile?
this was a personal recommendation from somebody that I knew, but the artist was not anybody I was familiar with.
Right.
They were fairly new on the scene, but even though they were a brand new band and they were right here in town and I'm only across the street,
Right.
the thing that sold me was they had a MySpace page, it had video, it had pictures, it had music.
So they're
Within
paying
2 minutes.
attention to their
And
own.
not only that, I fired off a quick email and I got a reply within 3 minutes and they got the gig. No question.
Yeah, it goes a long way, no doubt. They're
So-
paying attention to helping themselves or not. If they're not, then you start to, build your little list of red flags.
So, okay, now in the few minutes that we have left, I'd like to open it up to some audience questions. Yes, sir.
This is a question for Peter and Danny. My company's producing a New Orleans music festival in Red Rocks this summer.
Really? Would you give us your card?
One of the most fantastic venues in the world.
Yeah, it's called Mountainside Mardi Gras. But my question is, in this economy, Peter, you obviously have a huge USP being a nonprofit. What strategies have you found successful for garnering large sponsorships or major sponsorships?
Luckily, that's not my department. It's hard, and it the strategy is that we're connected to this nonprofit. I mean, that's why this festival works. Is we're the Oregon Food Bank, and since the beginning, and Safeway, it's a natural fit. So Safeway is our title sponsor. So it's their banner is up all over the place. I mean, we've done analysis of what that exposure is worth, and it's worth about $1.5 million worth of promo that they get out of their banner being on our festival.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is there any chance that we know we'll get cobwebs on our promo packages, but is there any chance we can get emails from you gentlemen so we could email to you before we leave?
Sure.
Cards, or will you give them out? Are you
I always respond, but it might not be what you want to hear.
That's fine. As long as it's honest.
Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, can we send you an email? And I think you heard the answer. Yes.
My question is, I'm in an all-female brass band, the only all-female brass band.
That would be the Pinettes? She's in an all-female brass band.
My question is, we've been in existence since 1991. We have never been overseas, never. My question is, what advice would you have for us as a band, and what steps do we need to take to get there?
Okay, great question. The question was, band's been together since 1991, has never traveled overseas. Do you own passports?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good start. All right, so guys, you heard the question. How does a band who has never traveled outside the United States, I'll ask our international distinguished dignitaries first, how does a band get overseas if they've never been?
Well, I have to try to, what we are doing right now, trying to connect with people who brings international acts of any level abroad. So that's the start, of course.
Where are you playing?
And I've seen the Pinettes many times, hired them myself. I would be happy to give them a personal recommendation, just for one. So that's hopefully a leg up. So any other anybody have anything to chime in on that? How does a band that's never traveled get outside the country?
I'd want to hear them.
All right.
Can I see you play? Can I hear you play?
All right. There'll be a Jazz Fest May the 1st. What time?
2:55 on the brass band stage.
On the brass band stage.
If I'm not
2:55.
here, do you have a YouTube clip up?
Yeah.
Okay.
MySpace.
I got to tell you, YouTube has become also a major opportunity for me when I can't, because I want to see what's happening live. And of course, you can't always trust those YouTube clips because it was sometimes posted by somebody in the audience, But you know what? For any of us who have been doing this for a while, we can read between the lines and see what the dynamic is. Are you up there on stage playing for yourself, or are you there for your audience? You know, and we can feel.
What do you prefer?
Well, you know, that's actually
seriously.
No, that's a very valid question, B, because of course it brings to mind somebody like Miles Davis, you know, who you know, lived on that reputation of playing for himself. But in fact, that wasn't the truth, because he surrounded himself with players who put across his true heart, that he was there for the audience. He may have turned his back on the crowd throughout much of his career while he was on the stage, but that never truly came across in attitude to the crowd. Not really. And those of us who are who are fans, who know how to feel and read these things, can understand the difference between somebody who's truly not given a damn.
Answer the question. Do you prefer an artist that is up there for their own artistic purposes, or somebody that is clearly there for the enjoyment of the audience? Can you tell?
Ultimately, I have to know that there's a connection from the stage to the audience. There's a there has to be, even though the living in their own world thing is very valid too. There's this brilliant documentary called Miles Davis, Miles Electric, A Different Kind of Blue, that came out like 3-4 years ago about live at the Isle of Wight. Miles is set in front of 600,000 rock fans in 1970. But leading up to this, there's this one statement I just must mention because it plays exactly to what you're saying, where James M. Toomey, the legendary percussionist producer who was playing in Miles' early electric band, Bitches Brew Time, there's a clip of them playing in this little club, and Miles, of course, has his back to the audience. This is the band with, you know, Jack D and Dave Holland and Chick Corea and Keith Jarrett is out to lunch, and they're all 20 years old and stoned out of their fucking gourds and giving it up. But suddenly James is narrating this story like somebody tosses a roll of toilet paper that whizzes an inch from his head, and James is like totally thrown for a second, and Miles just leans into him and goes, "Hey man, don't forget there's only two vibes, the one up here and the one out there." Right? Is there anything truer ever said? You know? And that's true. But even if that is completely true, there's that vibe that's happening between them on stage and the one that's communicated between the stage and the audience. Ultimately, the audience has got to be feeling it and responding, or else I don't want that artist on my stage. They can be in their vibe up there, but my crowd has to feel it.
All right, you're jumping out of your pants. What is it?
Can you remind everyone that the Sync Up website on the foundation page has all the panelists' names and their affiliations?
Oh, certainly.
You might want to remind everyone if they want to contact any of the panelists. That'll be a good access site.
Does it have all your websites on there too? I mean, email?
No, I purposely didn't post their email addresses on our website. I hope they thank me for that. But if you're diligent in your use of Google, you can certainly track them down. But yes, all of our panelists are listed on the website, and we will gladly disperse their cell phone numbers to you. Yes.
Is it as hot up there as it is back here?
Oh, yeah.
It's hot.
It is.
Okay.
And it feels
I
good.
didn't know I was bringing y'all something. I wanted to pass it down.
Oh, we're true fans. Thank you.
Said Sunday, prepare to be wowed.
She's got a lot of fans.
She does have a lot of fans.
Hard, too. I'll get one from home.
And I appreciate you all bearing with the heat in the room. This is a very old and historic building that we as a foundation purchased recently. It has been, as you know, in a state of deferred maintenance. And the air conditioning units and all the copper piping were stolen after Katrina. We still haven't restored the HVAC. So I appreciate you all putting up with us and dealing with the heat. Any more questions?
Hi, I'm a vocalist in town. And
Banu Gibson, everybody.
Hello. And I actually have to run out, and I would normally just try to corner all of you and talk, and especially Nico's hired everybody in my band, even the subs, but I've never been to a scone, so I really want to see if I can talk to them. But is there a chance that we can talk to them sometime later? Because I'm doing a workshop over at Nova.
That is why we created the Sync Up Hospitality Lounge at Jazz Fest.
You don't have them chained to the room, do you?
I do not have them chained to the room, but that's a great idea. And I will think about that. I'm going to fit them all with ankle bracelets.
How can we sync up with them later on after the event?
They'll be around for a few days, so that's what this is all about.
Dinner beside the dinner, which we
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I had a quick question. You described my situation perfectly. An artist with the product, everybody loves it, but they're like, nobody knows you're here. And I'm trying to let people know I'm here. I have the website pages and MySpace page, and I was recently added to the Talent Exchange website. And how often do you utilize that website to book acts? Because the talent in New Orleans is so abundant, and it is really difficult to get consistent gigs, especially if I primarily work with other artists that are very well known, but I did background work and things like that. So when I came out with my own project, I feel like I'm reinventing the wheel, but that's okay because I know that it's going to be successful. But I'm saying all that to say that what would you recommend would be the best course of action for someone who has a great product, a great show, a great band, who is hungry for the work, and who just wants to spend their life making people happy for the love of music that comes out of her?
Well,
Or was that too
no, well, I would say with absolutely no offense intended, because it can be misinterpreted. New Orleans artistically can be a fishbowl. You know what I'm saying? You can be a giant in this town and nobody knows you elsewhere. And that's just because this is such a fantastic but insulated kind of artistic community. You could say the same thing about Austin. Very much so, you know? So the first thing that comes to my mind is assert yourself to get into other markets as aggressively as you can, and make sure that you get into places where other artists are going to see what you're doing. That's a big thing about how buzz gets going. When your potential colleagues are going, have you checked her out? Do you know about her? Blah, blah. I mean, that's how Jimi Hendrix got going. All these people started saying, have you seen this guy playing this cafe on Bleecker Street?
So, but what you're also saying is that it boils down to having realistic expectations.
Oh no, because I think that's lowering that's an excuse for lowering your standards. If you believe in yourself and you unapologetically are stepping away from being a background singer to doing your own thing, you must be responsible for tooting your own horn.
No, I meant having realistic expectations when they are trying to break into new marketplaces.
Oh yeah, but push harder than you think you're capable of pushing.
Yes.
It sounds like a lot of you that I'm hearing are that you're doing a lot of your own footwork, trying to find talent. So does that mean that you really don't utilize the talent agents that are in this town, that artists are trying to get with or are with, that you guys just simply don't have any connection with?
The question is
like White Oak, for example, the booking agency. I don't hear you guys talking about them at all, and so are you? And I'm wondering why is that? And is there an issue with talent agencies in this town representing artists for you to be able to use?
There's no issue for me. I deal with those agents, but I still want to see those acts, because that's everything you said is right on the mark. I mean, you want an act that is going to blow people away on stage. I'm a festival. It's about the live thing to me. So I have to see that act really.
Because it's very limited. The agent come second.
Yeah, the agent is the way I put the tour together and all the gig and make sure they get here and all that stuff.
What agencies, if I may ask, out of New Orleans do you guys call?
Well, the question was, are you all doing your own research, or do you utilize the services of any local talent agencies or booking agents?
Well, the artist should say, you have to look for my agent. Otherwise, you do directly with the artist manager. Okay? Of course, we always look for the shortest way, in a way that it works, because there is this kind of bureaucratic problem somebody has to take care of. But you don't need a middleman if it doesn't exist or the artists don't want it. or he has to point to the exact manager or agent in the middle with who you have to talk to, or sometimes just somebody in the band takes this role. Okay, so, but it's the shortest. Of course, it's very good to talk to an agency because they act professionally, they take care of everything. And if it's really professional, it's of course, yeah, of course. But many.
It's hard for me to get representation to get to that next place because I'm more rock, but with flavors of funk and blues and all that.
Well, I think Sync Up do this kind of connection, and you have done this before to do this link, and an idea should be a data bank where the artist could bring the. No, it wouldn't be an agency, but something that where you could find the New Orleans acts. And Scott forever has tried to make this link, isn't it, Scott?
Well, I'm biting my tongue here, but the question that I have to ask you is, can you name me 5 booking agencies in this town?
Thanks. That's what I was going to say. Every one of the major name.
That's a very hard question to answer, but I can. One is White Oak, and the only other agencies that can come to mind right now are the talent agencies for films, like Fame, Elite.
Those are that's acting.
I know.
That's acting.
The only one I really know is White Oak, and Ruby Art Management is another one.
Every
I've
top
given
shelf
up
New
because I
Orleans,
don't even remember.
every top shelf New Orleans musician is represented by an agency from outside New Orleans.
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
Well, which is why
We need more
I don't know if you. Why I'm showing here on the screen, for those of you who are artists who are not already listed on it, we at the Jazz and Heritage Foundation created the Jazz and Heritage Talent Exchange, which is a database, a directory of Louisiana talent across all genres represented in the state that simply provides your booking agent contact, which if you are the artist might be you, or it might be, or whoever your licensing contact is, for licensing a song into film, video games, television commercials, etc. So, and this was done knowing that 99.9% of the artists here have no representation, and there aren't very many, which is to say hardly any, booking agencies, let alone reputable ones. So this was an intermediate effort for us as a nonprofit. This is a completely free service to fill the gap. And tomorrow, and as well as next Saturday, we're going to do a very detailed run-through and unveiling, actually, of the redesigned version of this site that looks completely different and has a lot more functionality. But that is our effort to make it easier for guys like this who, when they are out of town, I need a blues band. I need a rap act. I need a metal band. This is what I need. How can I find those things in one easy to shop service and find exactly who that contact is? So if you're not listed on the site, you really should be. Yes.
Yeah, in the economy today, I've noticed with the Warped Tour, we're downsizing, and I would see that a lot of major acts are lowering their prices. So the opportunity for unknown acts is going to become much slimmer to get into your venues because you're going to get a well-known act at a much cheaper price. Is that what you're seeing right now? And it's really going to be kind of very rare to get an unknown act unless you are wowed.
I don't see the prices going down actually on the drawing acts. Actually, last year was our second best year in 32 years, and this year will be similar, maybe even the best. The live performance for acts that are drawing and good venues and everything is fine right now, actually, amazingly. And
so live music is the part of the industry that is thriving.
The record side is horrible,
Yeah.
but the live music is not suffering. We're not dropping prices to get gigs. We're doing fine.
Live is going to continue to exist as an industry, and it's thriving, whereas because people, no matter what, are going to continue to want that tactile experience. Nothing can replace a live experience. It has a greater dollar value now than it has in the past, actually.
Especially in the midst of a recession. People want to do that to feel better.
Didn't affect ticket sales for Coachella last week. And people say, well, they got Paul McCartney, but why did they get Paul McCartney? No, I'm serious. Why did Paul McCartney agree to headline Coachella? Think about that, okay? Right? And they were, but
there's all sorts of motivations.
Well, yeah, exactly. No, it's not an unfair thing to throw out there in the context of the way he thinks of his career. But I didn't make it, and I wished I had. But I think it was a great statement that he got up there in front of a lot of fans who might otherwise have seen him as a dinosaur, and put a lot of context up on that stage, you know? And I don't think anybody was feeling particularly awkward or stupid waving their hands during the refrain from Hey Jude. I think it was a totally groovy experience, even for the most jaded. And ticket sales were through the roof for Coachella. And if anything, the experience now, what I think really in the business is an enhanced experience due to the demise of the recording industry, creates better opportunities for lesser known acts. I am offended at the same time at the average ticket prices being over $60. As a fan, I'm offended by that. I find it outrageous.
That's why the People's Fest down in the Lower Ninth Ward, completely free, happening May 2nd, Saturday.
Both my festivals in New York are completely free, but they can't live without their underwriting.
Not playing.
It's everything.
Any final thoughts from our panelists? Edgar?
Well, I hope that the artists that are here could go. This what the Scott does as a data bank is a good way to connect. Of course, we would love that you send us directly your promo packs. That should be just the links. That's the best way nowadays to know bands and to know acts that we don't know. But nothing substitutes the live seeing of the actual performance of the artist. And that's it. I think this what Scott is doing is fantastic. It's the second year, and well, I would like to join me with.
Thank you all. Appreciate that. Nicholas, any final thoughts? What is your preferred dinner? How do you like your chicken?
I'll make it.
Okay. Well, no, just be out there, play. That's the best way for me to discover new bands. I like to hear as much as I can always when I'm here. And normally the way it works for me, the best promotion goes from musician to musician. Depends the musician you're playing with. That's for me a business card. Yeah, they bring me around. They make me discover new names that I haven't heard before, and that's the way I deal with.
Mike, final words of wisdom?
I think for addressing what you were saying, how to get into a new market and everything, which I think everybody wants that hasn't, is, like Danny says, develop the wow factor. Really know what works for you, and work it as well as you can, and promote it, and then take every opportunity you can to win over audiences. If it's getting on benefits, because there's going to be other groups there, and you're not just drawing people that already know about you, but get in and win over other people's audiences with whatever opportunity you can, losing money to open for whoever, building an audience, but becoming a happening thing here. And if you're a happening thing here and you rise to the top here, that will get noticed and will get talked about, and these guys will pick up on it when they're visiting, but there we go. Doing your job. But develop, do everything you can to create a buzz, and be happening where you are, and it'll build out, little by little. You get into areas close by, or you get to Austin or whatever, but it builds outward. And then, everybody in the business chases success and opportunity for themselves as well. And so you start to look like a good opportunity for a record company or a manager or an agency or something, and then more doors open. But it starts, a lot of record companies in the last 10 years especially, and it's maybe not the last few, which has been a different world for them, they would think, so-and-so sold 2,000 records in their own little market. Think what we could do if we did it across the country. So that one market, wherever that market is important if you can rise to the top there. And creating the wow factor is, you know, that does it.
Danny?
Yeah, I'd like to, rather than go over previous points, get back to that point that I made earlier that everybody sort of chuckled out. Think hard about who is representing you, about who is helping you in what you're doing. It may be somebody you trust, but they may not be the right person professionally. This turns into a major problem for artists who insist on being represented by their girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, ex-wife, husband, father, mother. I mean, go back to the Wilson family, the Jackson family. It's not a joke. It is not a joking matter. It can bring about major, lasting, and permanent damage to a career. You must think that, I mean, like in any industry, if you put anybody in a position to represent you as an artist, that means that when anybody who is talking to that person has to have the impression that they're talking directly to you. Why would you want anybody who's going to assert something in their own personality that is not necessarily the best way to represent you in the position to represent you? Think very, very hard about who you trust professionally and personally. Finding the right manager, I think, is always the absolute hardest thing to do. It's absolutely the hardest thing to do. And taking care of the business as an artist is a draining proposition. It takes away from your artistic and creative energies, and you know, artists need space. You know, whether they were of the prodigious sort, was it Zappa put out how many albums in such a short space of time? You know, ridiculous. You know, I mean, the Beatles' whole career was only 7 years. Anybody forget about that? Hello? Okay? I'm talking about from the time they hit, okay? So keep some context, you know, whether you're prodigious or you need to take 3-4 years to make an album. It doesn't matter. Who's representing you? Here's the one last thing I'll say. In regards to this point and the Beatles, think about who they had representing them. They had the best publicist, Derek Taylor. They had the best record company guy. They had the best engineer. They had the best producer. They had the best manager. And it wasn't just because these opportunities presented themselves. Don't think the vultures didn't swirl around those guys at the beginning and throughout their career. But they were smart and savvy business people as well. And you have to be savvy about who is represented, because you can't do everything at once. So when you want to move beyond your circle within New Orleans and then beyond New Orleans, you got to build a team that's helping you. Be very careful about who's on that team.
It's the wow experience for sure. And about 10 years ago, I had one of my most incredible wow experiences here in New Orleans. And I was walking through the French Quarter, and I heard this kid playing the trombone. And he was playing Coltrane tunes and avant-garde jazz tunes and Bach violin partitas on the trombone. And he completely blew me away. And later, my sister-in-law, who is a musician down here, said, oh, yeah, that was Trombone Shorty. And he's already, at age 12, considered one of the 10 greatest trombone players on the planet by the people in the scene here. Finally, last year, he played the Waterfront Blues Festival. You know, it took him that long to line everything up, to get major agency behind him so that we could get him to Portland reliably. And it was an amazing. He's a phenomenal talent. It was great that it finally all came together, but it took a while.
Well, everybody, please thank our panel. And thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Thanks to each of you for taking your time and sharing your wisdom. And we'll see you out at Jazz Fest. And come on back tomorrow. We'll be here.